Hi there everyone, my name's Sally Lewis and thank you for joining me on this course which is titled Setting Your Rescue Up for Success using the R.U.S.H approach, which is R-U.S.H. Now the R.U.S.H approach was something that I came up with when I was trying to think of an acronym to give to people to remember the benefits that we can see from taking life very slowly with rescue dogs in those early weeks and months, how that can really help dogs to decompress. It can help to prevent overwhelm. It can give you a greater understanding of their individual needs, which longer term will help you in living with your dog, caring for your dog and providing them for what they need. So we have a happier dog and happy human. Obviously the focus on this was the idea of slowing it down, and ironically the word that I came up with for this acronym was R.U.S.H. Now each of these letters, R-U-S-H, stand for something different, and during this whole talk I hope that you'll be able to sort of pick up on some key elements from all of this to help you, whether you are adopting a rescue for the first time or are rescuing a dog and you've rescued before. Whether you work in rescue or if you work in other areas of the canine care industry, or if you just want to learn more about dogs. You're in a welcome space for all of that, so let's get started. So before we actually dive into R.U.S.H and what this is all about, just a little bit about me. I'm not going to bore you too much. If you want to find out more about me, you can see that on my website. But just a little bit of info. So as I said, my name is Sally Lewis. I live and am based in South Devon in the UK, which is where I work. I work with a variety of dogs of different breeds, ages, backgrounds, but I do work with a lot of rescue dogs. And the dogs that I work more often than not with are dogs that could be described as reactive or sensitive or nervous, that struggle in some areas of life or another with behaviour that could be fear-based or anxiety-based or stress-based. And I really like helping people to understand why all of that is happening and how we can actually just make changes to the way that we interact with our dogs and help them navigate the world, but also some small changes to their day-to-day lives to benefit dog and human so that we can have we can help the dog get to a happier version of their authentic self. That's what I'm all about. So let's continue. So what is R.U.S.H? So as I've mentioned, R.U.S.H is an acronym I developed to help people understand what their rescue dog might need from them in those early days and weeks. Getting those early days and weeks right is so important. You cannot redo that. That is key. So we have to focus on getting that time right. R.U.S.H is all about setting rescue dogs up for success and preventing overwhelm. Doing that will help them build more trusting bonds with you, their new family, learn more about their new life, and help them going forward in coping with their day-to-day, learning to feel safe in their day-to-day. If your dog doesn't feel safe and is overwhelmed and feels stressed, then you're going to see that in their behaviour, as well as it affecting relationships with those around them. R.U.S.H is about setting rescue dogs up for success and preventing behavioural escalations due to stress. It's about helping dog guardians understand the needs of their rescue dog in those early days for the well-being of their dog. And R.U.S.H describes the need to slow down, understand, and build trust, which is what I think those early weeks should all be about. So let's have a little look at our first letter, which should be R. Okay, so let's look at our first letter in our R.U.S.H acronym, which is R, and that stands for research. So it's quite a big topic actually, so let's just unpick it all a little bit, and I'll try not to go down too many rabbit holes. So what do we know about your dog's history? Quite a big question. So this could include previous environments that your dog has been in, so what or who have they been around, and what sort of home have they been in, what sort of area was that in? Experiences that your dog has had, some may refer to this as socialisation. What socialisation have they had? I prefer to look at experiences. Has your dog experienced any potential trauma, or have they experienced any potential abuse? How long have they been in rescue, and what led to them being in rescue? So that's actually quite an important question, I think. If we have a dog that was picked up on the streets of a European country and has been driven over to the UK, and is now in rescue here. That dog has had quite a different start to the dog who was purchased from a breeder at 8 weeks of age and lived with a family and lived there for a few years, and perhaps the family experienced a bit of a relationship breakdown, or someone's health situation changed and they're no longer able to care for the dog. Obviously, with Lucy's law in the UK, in an ideal world, that pup, no longer pup if they're a few years old, but that dog would go back to the breeder. But that's not always the case, and sometimes it can lead to the dog being in rescue. So two very different situations for two different dogs. So I think that's why it's very important that we find out what led to your dog being in rescue in the first place. What do we know about your dog's genetics? I cannot overstate the importance of understanding genetics in dog behaviour, because if we can understand some of that, we can understand some of why our dog might behave a certain way, or what we can expect to see from our dog, or what they might need. So for example, different breeds do tend to come with different behavioural traits. So a hound likes to use their nose a lot for different purposes. A collie likes to herd sheep. These are obvious things that we know. A livestock guardian may display guarding traits. So it's important that we understand our dog's genetic side so that we can prepare for what we might expect from them and what they might need from us. Another thing that I want to touch on there as well is something called epigenetics. Now, I'm not going to go down a science rabbit hole, but epigenetics sort of refers to behavioural traits that can be passed on genetically. So let's say we have a dog that we've got a bitch and she's come into rescue pregnant, and we have been informed by this dog's previous family that she has separation anxiety and she is scared of men. And there is a possibility that the puppies could be more prone to fear of men and separation anxiety. A possibility. So it's something for us to be aware of there. If when it comes to genetics, if we are adopting a mixed breed dog or a crossbreed dog, doesn't matter if they're a cross, we should still ask what breeds are in that dog if the rescue organisation knows, because then we can start to look up the different things and we can find out more information there. What do we know about their time in rescue and foster? So can we ask questions about their time in rescue, how that's been for the dog, anything relevant that the organisation might feel that they should share with you that is important for that dog? What do we know about their behaviour? This is really, really important. Do they struggle around unknown dogs, or people, or children, or traffic? Are there situations that they cope in better than others? Do they have sort of very set social preferences that the rescue organisation know about? Now, a lot of rescue organisations, if they know this information, will share it with you. And a lot of rescue organisations, particularly in the UK, will conduct assessments to find out these things. However, some ability to assess in some organisations is different to others. Equally, if a dog has found going into kennels very stressful, they may behave differently in that environment to how they behave when they have settled into a home, and the assessment sometimes doesn't always line up completely. So a rescue organisation will try their best to find a great match for a home for a dog, and to give you this information. But if you're not sure, ask them. Let's find out as much as we can about this stuff. Then we're not surprised if there is information that they could have given us. What do we know about their health? Hugely important. Health has a humongous impact on behaviour, but more importantly as well, if your dog has known health needs, then you will need to know about that so that you can provide for their care going forward. Again, if a rescue organisation knows this stuff, then they should be telling you, and most of the time they will tell you. Rescue organisations often work in conjunction with veterinary practices that will help with rescue dogs, and possibly diagnosing conditions and treating conditions and things like that. But have discussions about your rescue, about the dog with your rescue centre. If you know that they have known health issues, do ask your vet or the rescue organisation's vet what that means going forward, so that you know. If you can find things out, you can better cater for your dog's individual care needs. If you're told we aren't sure, you haven't actually lost anything by asking questions, but you've got a lot to gain by asking. So sometimes when I'm working with overseas rescue dogs, or people that are going to be adopting overseas rescue dogs, and I say, ask all of these things, I'm often told they might not know. They picked this dog up on the streets. Well, actually, if there's a possibility, just a possibility, that they know some of this stuff and they can pass that information on, then that's actually possibly a really helpful tool to your toolkit. So I really recommend asking as many questions as you possibly can, because the more we can find out, the more that we can move on to finding out more and doing our next thing in our R.U.S.H acronym, which is understanding the things that we have found out. So, understand. So you must first understand what your research has informed you of and take time to learn what that might mean for your dog. You must then offer understanding to their situation. So this is really key. We have to understand what we found out, absorb it all, and then we must offer understanding, so compassion and empathy for the dog in front of us that we are adopting. So understanding that your dog might have experienced trauma, which can lead to some behavioural challenges. Understand that they might need some time to form trusting relationships, or that they might struggle with attachment. So a couple of examples here are if we have a dog who has been in rescue 4 times because they keep being adopted out, it doesn't work out, and they come back to rescue. And they go again, and they're there for 8 months, and they come back. Eventually, they get to their 4th home, and the family find that the dog is destructive and struggles with being left alone and is very mouthy, very sort of snappy, not in an aggressive way like they're trying to bite, but some dogs, when they are stressed, can start to mouth excessively and things like that. Now this dog, this is a hypothetical dog, but I have seen things like this in my professional capacity, probably has a really hard time with the idea of anyone leaving them because they've gone in and out of rescue so many times. Every time they start to form that trusting bond, they go back to rescue. They never see that person again. The stress of the constant back and forth and changes of the environment that the dog has been put through has probably resulted in some mouthy, destructive behaviours. Now, this isn't a given for all dogs, but for this specific dog, this could be what's going on. Now, it would be easy for somebody to assume the dog is acting out or being difficult, and those would be incorrect assumptions. This dog's actually had a really hard time, and we need to support that dog in understanding that they are safe, support them into decompressing and de-stressing within their new environment, help them build trusting relationships, but more importantly as well, help them in time learn a little bit about that secure attachment if the dog has separation anxiety, and to feel confident in building up that time on their own in a way that the dog can cope with. So that's an example there. Another example is a dog who has spent a lot of time in a crate because there are a lot of children in the house that are very rowdy, and they run around the crate, dog's in the crate, these children are running around the crate all the time, and the family have decided to crate the dog because they don't want him chasing the children around. And the children are bashing into the crate when they're running because they're excited, because they're children, not maliciously. And this is obviously scary for the dog. And when out of the crate, the dog's milling around, the family might raise their voice at the dog at times to try and punish the dog. Now, for one reason or another, let's say this dog ends up in rescue. Dog goes to their adopter. Dog has a fear of crates. If we try and force that dog into a crate, we might get some slight behavioural escalations because we have a scared dog that does not want to go into that metal crate. Adopter, who they don't know, raises their voice to the dog. The dog has had some negative experiences around raised voices before and growls in response. The adopter might assume negative things about this dog, but actually this dog is scared. They don't know where they are. They don't really know who you are. That's something we must understand when we're adopting dogs, is the dog doesn't know you've done an amazing thing for them by adopting them. They just know they're somewhere really different with someone they don't know. We have to offer them that time. So this specific dog, I would remove the crate from the picture, personally, and I would work on building trust. Obviously, I wouldn't be raising my voice to the dog either, but I'd really be working on building trust with this dog. Those are some examples of situations that could have occurred in the life of a rescue dog and how we need to offer understanding to their past trauma and how that can be affecting them currently in their new home. So next up is obviously understand that they might need you to grow their world slowly. So this is really important. So I see a lot of people, I'll hear from a lot of people that go, I'm getting my rescue dog next week. I'm really excited. What are some key things that I should know? And the advice that I give to all of these people is, when you adopt your rescue, you are going to want to take them for a walk and show them the world. You are going to want to have your friends to visit to see your lovely new friend. You are going to want to take your dog to the vet to get them started and get them used to the vet. You might even want to venture to a dog-friendly cafe because that's something that you might not have done with ever before if you've never had a dog in your life, or that might be something that you're quite eager to do. Now, if we're a dog that has just moved into an environment that they do not know, where they do not know the people, they do not know their routine, and all of a sudden we're going out and we're going to the vets, which is quite stressful for a lot of dogs anyway. We are going to the cafe where there's people and dogs and noise, and we are having friends round. That is very overwhelming, and that can be a lot for a lot of dogs. So the biggest bit of advice that I can give to new adopters is grow their world slowly. All of that stuff will come in time, I promise. All of that will come in time. But as I mentioned earlier, those early weeks and months, you don't get to redo them. If we overwhelm our dogs by flooding them with all of this stuff in the early weeks and months, we will need to spend quite a lot of time trying to recover that later if we have overwhelmed and stressed our dog and not given them the time that they needed to decompress, so de-stress into their new life and build those bonds with us. Lastly on this, understand that rehoming is stressful for most dogs, even if it goes as smoothly as it possibly could. Dogs that might have been in multiple homes or travelled long distances may have experienced additional stress. So rehoming is tough. Like I said, humans, I don't want to make this sound negative, but I'm going to use the word martyr syndrome, which is, we've rescued a dog, we've done an amazing thing. The dog doesn't know to be grateful for that. Now, I say this as someone that has a rescue dog, and I really strongly support rescuing. A dog does not know that we have rescued them. A dog doesn't know that we have taken an amazing step for this dog and given it a second, maybe a third, fourth, fifth chance at our forever home. They don't know that. So we have to give them time to come down from the stress of rehoming. They will grow to love you so much, and they will grow to be a wonderful companion. But just in that early bit of time, we need to park the us bit and work on building that bond with the dog and give them time to come down from that stressful rehoming, because it is always stressful, even if it's gone as smoothly as it possibly can. I know dogs that have gone from puppies that have gone into foster homes that have then been adopted by behaviourists. that have, you know, landed on applause with going into a home that will be able to go, yeah, I need to do this, 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 and this for you to help you. But that doesn't mean that it's still not a stressful experience for the dog, because it will be. So we just need to help them. So moving on next, I've sort of touched on a few of these bits already, but it all comes into one, is R.S, which is slow down. So as I've mentioned already, your rescue needs time to settle into their new home and form trusting relationships with you. They don't know you that well when you first adopt them. They don't know your intentions. They don't know you as a person. They don't know that you could have been waiting to adopt the right dog for months, maybe even years, or that you have been working so hard on building your home setup to give them the right things. They don't know that. So they need time to settle into their new home and form trusting relationships. They need time to adjust to routines and the environment. So as I mentioned in the previous slide, trips to see friends, introduce family, to go to the cafe or to the beach, they can all wait. Give them the time that they need to settle in and bond with you. This is also your time to learn more about them. So as they start to decompress into your home and to start to trust you and build relationships with you, you may notice changes in the way that they communicate or express their preferences. And it's really important that we actually take the time that we need to make those observations for our dog, so that we can start to learn, oh, you know, they're communicating this way now, or they're actually indicating these things to me now. Because if we can make those observations around these things, we can learn more about them from them. And we can continue to provide for their needs, which is just a great thing. It can take many rescues several months to fully settle in, and it's not uncommon to see behavioural changes after the first couple of months as they begin to decompress and recover from the stress of rehoming. So an example here, I know these clients won't mind me mentioning this at all, because we've discussed talking about this within webinars together. So I have had the pleasure of supporting a family with 2 overseas rescue dogs that are litter mates, and they actually got in touch with me prior to adopting them so that we could sort of talk about a lot of these things, the right things to do in the first few weeks, or first few months rather, so that we could set these dogs up for success based on the individual dogs and what we knew of them at the time. And one of the things I said to them was, the dogs that you meet initially might not be the same as the dogs that I meet when I first meet you all in person in about 8 weeks' time, because a lot of this stuff was done remotely. I hadn't met the dogs physically in person, and I wasn't going to do that until they had started to settle in, because I didn't want to be a cause of overwhelm for them. And when we were first talking about the dogs and the dogs first came home, we had one dog that was very, very confident, very full on, and we had another dog that was a lot more reserved and nervous. And I said to them, I wouldn't be surprised if we see personality changes, and actually if there's a little bit of reversal here. Now, that's not going to be the case for every dog, but for what I knew about these guys, that's what I was anticipating. Exactly as expected, probably about a couple of months after adoption, the very confident dog, once the stress levels had started to drop, was actually quite nervous. And a lot of that confidence and full-on behaviour was a stress response. She has become much more nervous. On the flip side, the dog that was very nervous and quiet, reserved, which was their stress response, has gone the other way, and she's a much more confident dog than the other. So those personality changes can be expected. Now, I tend to say to people, you know, work to a rule of, now this is a complete, I don't like doing generalizations, but if I'm gonna give you a general rule, I like to work to a rule of months rather than weeks, which is that it can take a dog, you know, a period of several weeks, so maybe 6 weeks or so, to start building those relationships with you. And it can take them up to 6 months to be fully settled and compressed in their new home. Now, obviously, that depends on the trauma that these dogs have experienced. If we have an overseas rescue dog that has experienced a lot of trauma, that maybe actually struggles a little bit more in domestic environments, it's going to take them a lot longer. It entirely depends on the dog's background, but understand that it will take them several months to fully settle in. And like I say, it depends on their experiences as a dog. It might take them longer to form trusting relationships with you. It might take less time. There might be certain things in life that they struggle to adjust to more, but as a rule, I like to work to six months to decompress. But like I said, it can vary slightly. Last up here is those early days. You cannot redo them. You don't get to redo them. And when I say early days, I really mean months. You get one shot. If it goes wrong, if your dog is overwhelmed, if your dog becomes stressed, if we flood our dogs, we might need to have to work quite hard to unpick that. So let's try and nail these early days, get them right for our dogs. Make this time about enjoying your new companion, not piling in all the stuff, because the stuff can come later. Okay, and last up here is H, which is help. Seek it if you need it. It is better to ask for help too early than too late. If you feel you need help from a qualified and experienced behaviour professional, seek this sooner rather than later. There is no shame in it. Absolutely no shame in it. Now, I can speak for myself as a certified canine behaviourist. I really love it when people contact me and say, you know, I'm going to be adopting a rescue dog, and we can start having some discussions around what we know about their dog, what we can expect the early days to potentially look like, and things that we can do to set them up for success. Likewise, if someone's recently adopted a rescue and might have had them for a couple of months and starts to see some behaviours that they feel they might want help with, they get in touch and say that I haven't had them for a huge amount of time, but I'm starting to see some of these things, we can then open up a dialogue around that, and I can offer support there. What can happen is if we adopt a rescue dog and we're seeing some slightly challenging behaviours, don't necessarily know how to deal with them, and you go, do you know what, it's fine, I'm going to just Google it, I'm going to do some Google related stuff, and I'm just going to try and get by or do what I feel might be right. There is potential that we could be doing stuff inadvertently that makes things a little bit more difficult, or that doesn't quite work for your dog, or the internet is full of really truly terrible advice, a lot of outdated advice. You don't want to leave it 2 years down the line to go, nothing's got any better, or it's actually got worse, so now I'll get in touch with someone. The sooner you can do it, the better. Now, obviously, life doesn't always work like that. If it does, if you do get a year, 2 years, 4 years down the line, please still get in contact with someone, because there are wonderful behaviourists out there that will be ready to support and help you. But if we can do it too early than too late, amazing. The important thing is that you do not feel any shame, guilt, or judgment for needing help. Because to me, someone reaching out to a behaviourist for help is a hugely responsible step, and it shows you care about your dog. Some rescue organisations are able to provide in-house behaviour support, whilst others will refer you to independent practitioners that they know, have knowledge of their qualifications and experience. Some rescue centres might work with multiple behaviourists that all specialise in different areas. Some behaviourists will specialise in aggression, while others might specialise in separation anxiety, different things like that. So have a chat with your rescue centre when it comes to the time of adoption. Find out what behaviour support might look like from them, because that's important for you to know. But obviously, if you do need help and you have recently adopted a dog, you can reach out to that centre to see if they can give you any support, or can they refer you on. Equally, vets can also refer you to behaviourists as well. It's important for me to share that I'm based in the United Kingdom, so I am sharing information here about the United Kingdom. The dog behaviour and training industry here is not regulated, meaning anyone can set up as a behaviourist. So Sue, who works in a local office and does administration and has a spaniel at home might decide that she likes dogs enough to start going into training and behaviour, and she might have no qualifications, but Sue can set up her website tomorrow and call herself a behaviourist, and that currently is okay because the industry is not regulated, whereas you have individuals like myself. I've spent years studying canine behaviour, got several years of experience under my belt working with a variety of dogs, including very complex cases. I am accredited, meaning that I have put myself out there for external assessment by another organisation, and individuals that form part of that organisation have assessed me to decide if I am good enough, and if I know what I'm doing enough, if I'm experienced enough, if my knowledge is up to scratch, and if my commitment to CPD is there, because continued professional development is really important. Someone that qualified in dog behaviour 30 years ago and has done no qualifications since then probably doesn't really know what they're doing anymore, because science is always showing us and telling us new things. So it's really important that any professionals also have that commitment to CPD. So ask questions, check qualifications, check commitment to CPD, check accreditations out, because all of those things are really, really important. Don't just go by wording on the website. Someone can say, I'm reward-based, I do positive reinforcement, and also could be doing things that aren't very nice for your dog, that are based on out-of-date methods. So you really need to check all of that out. And if you aren't sure, if people do belong to external sort of other organisations, membership organisations, you can go on their websites too and check out their ethos and what is required to be a member, so that you have an understanding there. But it's just an important point for me to make about the industry being unregulated, because unfortunately there is some not very good help out there, but likewise there are some amazing, phenomenal, very dedicated professionals, and you just need to find that you are in the right hands with whoever you choose. So moving on, enjoy life with your new companion. Rescuing a dog is a wonderful experience. I love my rescue boy, and some of the rescue dogs out there will teach you more about dogs than you ever thought you could know about dogs. They make wonderful, wonderful friends, and it is really lovely knowing that you have given them that chance. To me, it's really important that we help dogs to become the happiest version of their authentic selves, and that's what this R.U.S.H approach is all about. Just to recap: R, research; U, understand; S, slow down; H, help, seek it if you need it. All of that, if we can try and stick with that in those early weeks and months, we should be setting our rescues up for success. If you need further help or assistance, please browse additional learning content on the Online Learning Hub. You may also enjoy reading my book, Empowering Your Dog Through Choice. I wrote Empowering Your Dog Through Choice for dog guardians. You do not need an animal behaviour degree to understand it. It's really important to me that it's accessible for everybody, and it contains all of the information that I think every single person living with or caring for dogs in any capacity should know to help with caring for their dog. You can get that on Amazon. If you just type Empowering Your Dog Through Choice into Amazon, you'll find it there. If you want to contact me, I can be contacted via www.knowyourdogdevon.com, which is my website for sort of practical work. And I hope that you found this helpful. I hope that you have found this beneficial. And in whatever capacity you work with your rescue, whether you're working in rescue, whether you're adopting a rescue, on behalf of the dogs to you, thank you, because it's just a wonderful thing. Anyone that works in rescue is a superhero, and anyone that's rescuing a dog is just awesome. And enjoy life with your new friend, because it's really wonderful.